My name is Susan Campbell Bartoletti, and I write fiction and nonfiction for young readers. I was not always a children's book author. Before I was a children's book author, I was an 8th grade English teacher, and I taught 8th grade for 18 years. All the while that I was teaching, I was also writing. In fact, I did all the homework. If my students wrote a poem, I wrote a poem. If they wrote a story, I wrote a story. They would bring their work into class, and we'd share and talk about ways they could make their writing better. Sometimes I'd bring my work into class and share, and they'd tell me how to make my work better. So I credit my 8th grade students with giving me my voice in my audience, because at that time I had no idea that I was going to become a writer, especially somebody who likes to write for young readers. The young people that I began teaching many years ago, and the young people that I see outside in schools today when I visit, I think they do share one trait still, and that's this. They all hunger for a good story. They want a good story well told. And so when we look at their reading habits, I mean, they're getting stories in many different ways. The technology today gives them the ability to go for stories on the internet. They get their stories by going to newspapers and magazines. They get their stories by, text messaging their friends and whatever they do with their phones. And they're still going to the library, and they're still going to the bookstores. When I'm visiting schools, I'm thrilled to see them carrying books, and I'm thrilled to see that they are getting excited about reading. But when you think about it, I mean, story, it's we all hunger for story, and I think it's universal. I don't think that's ever going to go away, that need that we have for a good story well told. I understand that often we find that boys are more turned on to nonfiction than girls are. And I think about that sometimes. I think the books that I write are especially interesting to boys. I can't help it. I'm drawn to the dark side. I'm drawn to the dark stories, and I love looking for those dark stories because I just want to figure them out. I want to understand why. I want to make meaning out of them. I find that I get a lot of letters and emails, especially from boys who really enjoy reading about whether it's stories like the Third Reich, when they want to try to figure out Hitler and what would cause a man to do such a thing, or they like to put themselves in the roles of the young people in the books. They enjoy the photographs, I mean, because that makes very active reading. And, I find that, boys are getting turned on to reading through nonfiction. I like my nonfiction to serve a couple of purposes. One, if I have a reluctant reader, I love using photographs. I love doing the photo research, for one thing. For me, that's very rewarding. But I also find that it pulls readers into the text, so they can use the pictures. And so reluctant readers, I think we're tricking them into reading by getting the best possible images to reflect the story. And so I think the images are doing double duty. I think, for one, they are pulling readers into the text, and they are illustrating the text. But for some people like to read a story through images. And so they can also read the story of the Hitler Youth by reading the images as they page through the book.